Iran and North Korea dominated discussion at the General Assembly, but Syria barely factored into the conversation. The war in Syria has been grinding on for more than 6 years, and the UN Human Rights Commission investigating war crimes there has gathered 6,000 pieces of witness testimony and published 14 reports filled with evidence of abuses. But not a single person has been brought to justice. The lack of accountability is so frustrating that it led one of the Commission's own investigators to quit this summer. Caroline Modaresi-Tehrani sat down with her in Geneva.
Swiss prosecutor Carla del Ponte has spent her career prosecuting some of the world's most notorious war criminals. Until 2 days ago, she was part of the UN Commission investigating human rights abuses in Syria.
After 7 years, can you imagine the amount of crimes that we collected? Each day, you can have 2 or 3 crimes committed. Each day.
Is Bashar al-Assad the number one perpetrator?
Yes. In our report, we presented a lot of war crimes that President Assad is responsible. The last one is Khan Sheikhoun.
These patients have got clear signs of organophosphate attack.
All the world are watching us, killed by chemical weapons, and they are supporting Bashar.
One of the more than 20 chemical weapons attacks that President Assad is responsible.
In addition to chemical weapons attacks, the Commission has found evidence of other war crimes on all sides of the conflict, including the bombing of medical personnel and the torture of civilians. But the UN Security Council has failed to act on the Commission's recommendations to prosecute anyone involved.
So, what led you to quit the Commission?
To put an end to my frustration, because we did not achieve to move towards justice.
The justice process she's referring to is supposed to work like this. A UN commission, like the one investigating Syria, gathers evidence to determine if war crimes have been committed. That evidence is presented to the UN Security Council, along with a recommendation that a tribunal be established so prosecutions can start. If approved, either a new tribunal is set up, like in the case of former Yugoslavia dictator Slobodan Milosevic, or the case is referred to an existing court, like the International Criminal Court. But the UN Security Council has not approved a court for Syria yet. And Russia and China, 2 of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, vetoed using the ICC to try Syrian war criminals. It's this political grandstanding that Koning AbuZayd, one of the 2 remaining members of the Syria Commission, says is to blame for the lack of progress.
Do you think that Russia is going to allow there to be a prosecution against some of the Syrian government, given that they are so heavily invested in protecting and propping up that regime?
That's the whole problem even with what we do, that there's a Security Council with 5 members who have veto power, and there are those who are going to veto anything that doesn't suit their own political understanding of things.
If people's frustration shouldn't be placed on the Commission, where should they be placing their frustration?
The UN in New York, the Security Council, the member states generally. If enough member states were really keen on this happening, then presumably they could weigh in with the veto holders and get on with this.
Koning AbuZayd has more faith in the UN system than Del Ponte and points to a new investigative panel, the International Impartial Independent Mechanism, known as the IIIM. This new mechanism is supposed to build on the work of the Syria Commission and prepare case files to be used to convict war criminals if a Syrian court is ever set up.
Now we at least have a mechanism set up by the UN with very good people in it, so we hope that they will take our information and have cases ready for prosecution.
How big a step is it that this IIIM, this mechanism exists?
It's just a little step towards justice, further little step towards justice, but it's ridiculous that we don't have a tribunal. What are we doing? We are trying step by step to arrive from what we achieved years ago.